Alrighty, new week means a fairly simple kingdom, base and alchemy. What's going on here? We got laboratory for draw, university for villages, no plus buy at all, but there's remodel for gains. You could gain gold off of bandit and remodel them, for instance. You could do more than single province. Thinning looks a little bit limited. There's remodel, which can deal with estates fine. Not so great at trashing coppers. Not a very strong kingdom, that's for sure. I guess technically Golem is also actions and draw. Like in theory, Golem plays 2 actions, so it's like plus 2 actions, and it grabs 2 cards out of your deck, so it's like plus 2 cards. It's just really terrible, and so I have a tendency of ignoring it. So I think the big question is, do you want to take a detour into universities? It helps you gain labs. That's just about the only action card you want. I'm not, like, if you only want laboratories, I'm not sure that getting a potion, getting a university, and gaining labs off a university is net helping you win the split versus just buying labs directly. It would let you play multiple terminals, which could matter, like a remodel on a bandit, or 2 remodels. I don't know. University does not seem crazy to me, but I'm going to say it probably doesn't pay off. I think probably open with a remodel, just take a stack of labs, maybe throw a bandit in there at some point, I'm not sure. Remodel the estates into silvers probably, turn 1 or 2 of the coppers into sellers, and then just go to town. Don't think there's a whole lot to say about this one. This would make it a de facto base only kingdom, given that there's 3 alchemy cards, and I mean, Philosopher's Stone is literally the worst card in the game. There's just no circumstance which is ever good. I think the best case scenario is with keep the landmark that it says treasures are worth 5 victory points, basically. And so you buy it not because it has any value whatsoever, but because it's worth 5 points and keep kingdoms. That comes up occasionally. But there's no deck where Philosopher's Stone ever makes sense. So that one's terrible. Golem's terrible. University, I think, is a decent card, but it requires a stronger kingdom with more valuable actions to be worth it here. Alright, laboratory here. This is not a very happy hand because I don't see my remodel and I do see both of my estates. So I'm not expecting much of my next turn. Turn a copper into a seller. Seller is not a great card. I don't think I would buy one on 2 if I randomly hit 2. I think turning copper into a seller is okay at least. Partly because I have a bunch of coppers that I can't easily get rid of, and so seller can at least sift past the coppers. Okay. Another silver and another lab. There's just really not a whole lot to say about this one. I should know what the bottom 2 cards are, and I do not. Was this the top of my shuffle? There's no way to know. Played 2 labs, bought a lab, saw 4 coppers. I'm looking at 1 copper. There's a copper down there. I'm going to pitch 2. Yeah. As long as there's at least 1 copper down there, I was still guaranteed to hit 5. And I knew there weren't any labs down there, and so I would like to cycle back around and find my laboratories sooner, rather than leaving 2 stock cards on top of the deck. Golem, when did you get a potion? And why? The bot's an enigma. I would have thought that if one were getting a potion, it would be for university, but bot apparently is a golem lover. Fascinating. Those bottom cards are just like a ton of coppers, right? I think is it all copper? I think it might just be all copper. Anyways, I would like this last lab, and I'm contemplating just turning a silver into lab so I can start provincing already. Because once I got the labs, there's not a whole lot else to do. I think the other option would be like estate into silver and buy the lab. I think I'm fine just turning silver into lab and starting to province. And I have at least enough deck control that I don't think it's worth a Dad Bandit, just because I can only play one terminal per turn, and I'm not even sure Bandit's better than Remodel, but it's really not enough better than Remodel to go into that. So how do I draw as many of these coppers as I can while still hitting 8, I think is the question. So like if I discard 2 here, I draw 2 coppers, I trash a silver, that's more than I need. I can discard 3, and then I would draw 3 coppers, I'd have 3 silvers. If I discard 4, does that work? I draw all 4 coppers, I trash 1 silver, I have 2 silvers left. I think that checks out. Yeah. I didn't want to discard so many silvers that I couldn't hit 8, but it just barely worked out that I could. I think I'm going to pitch even the silver here because I want to find the lab. Not sure about that. I'm also not sure about holding on to the remodel. And the best target for remodel is the estate, which I'm about to discard. Maybe I keep the silver and pitch the remodel just to maximize my chance of hitting 8. I'm not sure. This is a tricky decision. Yeah, I don't think there's any great targets in my deck for that remodel right now, except for the estate, and I had to pitch the estate. I should know how many labs I have, and I don't know that. What are these bottom 6? Like, if this is just a bunch of labs, I'd be happy stopping here. There's a cellar down there, and I think at least 1 more lab. My discard has remodel, estate, copper. I have 5 coppers in my deck. There's 1 copper, 1 copper. There's 3 coppers down there. There's a cellar down there. I think that might be 2 laboratories. I'm just going to stop here. Yeah. This is a perfectly fine starting hand. Why do you have a golem? Okay, so the bot has labs, has remodel. The only difference is it went out of its way to take a potion to get a golem, and I'll point out that it has lost the lab split, probably due to that unnecessary side quest it decided to go on. Uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco. That's too many, right? I have 12 cards left. I have 4 labs left. That draws 8 cards. If I discard more than 4, I can't play on my labs. Do I want to mill a province? Maybe, but I have a 2nd province in my deck, so I don't need to keep this one around. Bottom decked on my labs. Not a big deal, to be honest. I don't think. You saw nothing. That gold is going to be gone post haste. Yeah, I mean, if there's one thing gold is decent at, it is being expensive junk. None of the other cards here are expensive enough to remodel straight into a province. Bot has 2 remodels, also some vassals, exciting. This is one of those rare occasions where I'm on the side of building less and greening sooner. I don't believe in the golem deck. I'm sorry, bot. Feel free to prove me wrong. Okay. So this is already double province in hand. I do see 4 of my labs though. Sorry, 5 of my labs. There's 1 lab down there and a cellar. I definitely want to draw at least 1. If I only have 7 cards, 1 lab, 1 cellar, I draw with the lab, reach the end of my deck, and then one thing you want to watch out with cellar is, let's say you're right at the end of your deck, and you discard like 6 cards with your cellar. all 6 of those junk cards go straight back into the shuffle before you shuffle your deck, and now your deck is full of the junk. Whereas if you draw 1 card further, trigger the shuffle first, and then do the cellar, all the cards you're discarding cellar are missing that shuffle. So it is important to me to at least get slightly further into that shuffle so that the cellar doesn't whiff. Right, that's enough. See, now I can play the lab first, then play the cellar, then discard the provinces, and all those provinces are going to be outside the shuffle that I just created. And with a good draw here, this should be a win this turn. I can remodel province and a province and buy a province. This deck is not one where I can count on having a good draw, but it's not that unlikely either. Copper into a state. Copper into more estates. There are, in the expansions, really strong two cost cards. So like page, peasant, lackeys, supplies, etc. And with those around, remodel can deal with coppers just fine, because turning coppers into something good is obviously good. But none of those exist in the base set. The only $2 cards in the base set are Cellar, Moat, and Chapel. If you have Chapel around, you don't need to trash your coppers with remodel, because Chapel does it. Cellar, you can turn coppers into Cellar, but Cellar's really weak, and so that's not much. Maybe Moat's the best case scenario for remodel dealing with coppers, but even Moat is rarely a card you want a bunch of, although not never. Does this hit 8? That worked out quite nicely. Okay, so labs and remodel. The bot took some golems and then used them to play an additional remodel and a vassal. I think that's just getting too fancy. The problems with golem, they're plentiful. Just on paper, golem's effect reads like +2 cards, +2 actions, which sounds great. And it looks like, oh, it sifts through your cards and goes and grabs your action cards, which you want to find. Isn't that double great? It is not. So firstly, obviously the potion cost is a big drawback. As with any potion cost card, you gotta first take a turn off buying a potion, which is itself a junk card in your deck, and then you use the potion to buy the stuff that you want. That's a big impediment. It makes it slow. It's not the end of the world. There are potion cost cards that are good besides that. But another problem with Golem is that Golem does not synergize very well at all with Golems. Because, like, imagine you wanted most of your draw to come from the Golems, because they are ostensibly draw cards. Well, the first time you play a Golem, it skips past all the other Golems and then discards them. And then what you end up with is, like, if you find one Golem on top, you discard all the other Golems, and then the Golems are at the bottom of your deck. Well, by the time you get back around to the bottom of your deck, those Golems don't do anything anymore, because it's only drawing you 2 cards if you have 2 action cards left for it to go find. So if your discard is like the coppers plus the Golems that got skipped, all those Golems that are in your discard are going to do nothing by the time you draw them. So Golem does not synergize with Golem, which is the problem, because if you're going out of your way to add a potion, probably you want to be buying multiples of that card. Like with Scrying Pool or Alchemist, you take one potion and you can buy 5-10 copies of that card and be happy. But the Golem, it's like a card where you'd be happy to have like 1 or 2 of them, but you're not getting a potion just to get 1 or 2 Golems. And so the cases where you get Golem are usually like ways where you can get it without getting a potion. Like if you could get it off of Receive Tribute, or you could gain it off of Lurker or something, then it looks a lot better. Or Sunken Treasure is another good example. But getting a potion just to get 1 or 2 Golems isn't good, and then Golems don't synergize well with each other. It also just does not let you control the order you play your cards in, which I think is a big deal. Like stuff like playing your Cellar at the right time versus the wrong time, making sure you've got the ideal remodel targets in your hand before you play it. Golem is just like, play the slots, let's see what order our actions come out in. And that means you're often playing cards at inopportune times. You have a little ability to play the cards in the order you want them to, and for some cards that can matter a whole lot. Not to mention, that also means you play your first golem. What if it hits 2 of your terminals? Your golem hit 2 of your remodels, and then oops, you just instantly dudded. And you think, oh, well, based on that, I'll hold off. I'll play my labs first, try to find a village, and then I'll play the golem, so that I don't risk just randomly dudding when it pulls 2 terminals. But if you start playing your labs first, and then you play your villages, and you wait till late in the deck to play your golems, well, surprise, you don't have enough actions left in your deck anymore for the golems to play, and it's a whole nightmare. So the card is just unwieldy in so many ways that make it so much worse than what it theoretically looks like, and all that for a potion cost, I think, means it's just one of those cards that and I think this actually happened toward the beginning. It's just doesn't register to me as a card in the kingdom. You look at the kingdom and you're like, oh, look at these 6 cards, and then you mentally just gloss over Golem, Philosopher's Stone, Bureaucrat, etc. That's not what I was looking for. There we go.